Alright, so this video is actually going to focus on a brand new feature to Altia Design 11.3. It's called the mask object. And essentially what it does is gives you a very easy way to create extremely high-end visual effects such as this. Now, there have been ways in the past to create this, but it involved a lot more process and a lot more creativity than just using the simple mask object as is we're about to see. So this video I'm going to show a few examples of the mask object in use and drill in only so far as to show you how it was done, but not go to the scope of a full tutorial. Those videos will come later on the knowledge base. For now, this is more to plant the seed of the capabilities of the mask object and why you should think it's cool and want to use it. So first off, basically if you show and hide the mask object here and here, you can see you have two different mask objects. Well, let's take a look at one at a time. The first one, well, all mask objects have a mask and a content layer, and this one is the blue arc in its entirety. The mask content is a collection of groups that reveal different sections of themselves based upon the animation value called speed. So as this is growing in shape, so too is the amount of this image being allowed to be revealed by the mask itself. So when you play through the animation from 0 to 270, you actually see that image being essentially drawn out from nothing or tiny tick to the full arc. Okay, and that's all you need to do. Now this arc could be anything. So just to show you what I mean, let's just decide for whatever reason that in the middle toward the top here we want a bright red rectangle. Okay, maybe that's the center point or a red line indicator, whatever you want. Well, it just so happens that because I put it there, as soon as we get to that center, look, it's revealed and then it's gone as soon as it's masked out of the picture. So very, very quick and easy to add portions to your content to be revealed in the content layer or content to mask out. That is, form the shape of the revealing area. Okay, so we're going to move down to the mask object that actually handles those colored numbers. If you can see, the mask content is the text itself and each individual label. This is essentially telling this guy to poke holes or allow the content to shine through only within this shape. If we look at this content and we change the animation of speed, you can see it's actually just this bloom, right? So it's rotating. This is just a rotating image of a bloom. But put into this mask, what you get is the actual bloom being revealed inside of the numbers and the ticks. And this just so happens to match our separate mask objects revealing paths. So if you just have the bloom and numbers and the ticks, that's what it looks like. But if you combine the two mask objects, you get that. So this is all done with mask objects, but then, of course, with classic Altia Design rotated needles like we've shown in many previous Altia Design knowledge-based tutorials, you combine the two effects and you've got a really high-end looking needle that rotates and also reveals its location not only with the arc but with the glowing numbers and the ticks. So this is one really good example of the use of the mask object. Alright, so now let's jump over to a second really cool one. And this is basically a sort of a loading animation that you could imagine, and you could even have numbered percentages filling in here. In this case, we have a little particle cloud and a wavy sort of gradient or vector-based look to it as it fills up the letters. We just so happen to have the text opacity setting, so we can control how opaque or transparent the text is, the amplitude of the wave, and the wave width. And really all that's happening here, if you once again focus into the mask object, is here is your mask. It's basically saying for whatever's in content, which is this nice little moving wave animation, just vertically rising up and up and up, right? For whatever you have in this content, mask it to these letters. And what are these letters? Well, they're just individual readouts. And if you can see, each readout has its own Y position animation. And it's just some code to tell it to bounce up and down differently based upon your chosen values for amplitude, wave width, and so on. Okay? So once again, it's a real simple combination. You've got the actual content that is animating independently in the content section. And then in the mask section, you've got where to put it. Now, one thing that's really cool about any mask object, and I'll show this with other examples too, is mode. This basically cuts a hole in the content. You can see the background image is now shining through the little animation, whereas this puts the content into the mask. So you can have a masked out region or an inverse mask, depending upon what you want. All right, so let's move on to a couple other examples. One of which is really neat because it takes a classic example of what we used to have to do in terms of designing lists with a fading top and bottom extent. You can see that the list items kind of fade off, right? It takes that concept and actually makes it real using the mask object. What I mean by real is if I hide this background image, look what we had to do previously. We had to make a PNG image that was a portion of the background image on the top and bottom fading away to nothing. That's what you had to do previously. Well, now with the mask object, you can truly do it for real. What I mean by for real is the content inside of the mask is your station list, right? But the mask is truly now a rectangle with a fade off image on the top and a fade off image at the bottom. What makes this extraordinarily flexible is you can actually take this on top of anything. Let's move it half on and half off so you can see it here. And you can see that this fade effect looks and shows up perfectly no matter where we are. Okay, so you can see this top and bottom fade is really, really good looking. And if we get all this focused out and start moving the list, I forgot to grab the scroll bar too, so the scroll bar is now on the right. Easy fix if I want. Put it back over here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that gives you a better visual representation. We can now scroll through the list, and you can see that yes, it is actually fading to nothing for real now with the help of the mask object. So if we turn the background image back on, you can see that I don't need pieces of the background at the top or the bottom. It's working for real due to the fact that it's using the mask's actual fall off as the top and bottom reveal. And of course in the middle where you want it opaque, you can just draw a rectangle. Okay, so that's another really great example. Now popping over here now, let's open up just a few more that are already done. And I just wanted to show you, just like I said, a few more that we've built using mask objects. Here's one that changes color as it reveals, and you can see it's actually translucent on top of a background image here. Okay, well this was actually done, if you crack open this one, with a couple embedded or nested masks, so you can have mask objects within mask objects. But what's really cool about that is you can actually start to set up properties on the rectangles you might have in your fill areas. Let's make this like a bright peach color. Okay, and that fall off gradient is actually on the rotating rectangle in there. That's why I was able to change its color. Well, there's also a little bit of smarts over here with a color fade bit of control code that fades the color from as you change the animation color. So if I just wanted to set that to a different color at the top, to like a very purple at the top, and maybe knock out the green here and set it 255 here. So we're going to go now from blue to pink. It actually works. See, we've got that blue to pink, and you can see that it's perfectly masking and blending with all the other surrounding objects. Okay, so that's another really cool example. And then if we go to different ones, so we've shown this one here, we've got some text animations that are really neat. So the background image is just this sort of folded paper looking background. Okay, in here we just have some text, and we have some mask text. Well, this is really two text IOs, this text IO and this text IO, which is really just the same text IO but upside down, kind of distorted. But it appears to fall off into the background because of this nice little mask object. So just to show you that it's truly a text IO, let's go to this the properties here and actually change the text to say fast, right? You can see it's now updating the reflection. All right, so that is the mask object. used for something cool like that. Alright, so let's show a couple more examples before the end of this video. Again, it's not meant to, be a full tutorial, more of an exposure to how many different ways you can reveal things with the mask object and kind of plant the seed for your own creativity. This is a good example of where you can use mode. So if mode 1 is set, basically it's saying go ahead and cut out from the content the shape of the mask. Mode 0, the default mode, is use the shape of the mask and only show the content in that shape. And so if we go look at that, the mask is the readout and the content is this gradient. All right. So there's a couple more here. We're getting toward the end of the list here. Just want to show you that with these basic concepts of drawing rectangles and animating them within a mask region, you can actually begin to make really cool screen transitions. And again, just mask objects and animated rectangles. All right. So let's show just a couple more variations on that theme, such as this. Okay, just thinner rectangles in this case. All right, and then we've got one more here, which has kind of a lateral shift of the ribbons. And again, this is something you would see in like Adobe Premiere or some video editing program where you're designing transitions between video clips. It's done really the same way. It's a progressive mask that reveals A and B. But in this case, we're using the mask object to have rectangles animate within the mask object to do that reveal. All right, and I've mentioned once before the inverted mask. Well, this is it's simple, but it's a good example of what I mean by inverted mask and normal mask. Okay, so if you select the sky and you change his mode, that's the animation. A mask object always has a mode animation. This will say, fill that mask shape with the gradient, the orange gradient, or in mode 1, draw the entire orange gradient, the ball and its outer globe, but cut out a hole in the shape of the mask. And if you go and focus in, you can see that it's really just a readout and then this this little image here. So you've got a readout and an image. Okay, so that is the difference between the mode 0 and the mode 1. And I think finally this is the end of the list here that I wanted to show you. You've got two very simple masks, okay? And if you overlay them, they blend just like any other object. So mask objects blend with each other just fine too, but they have that internal blend. And what's cool about the internal blend is this fill content is just a rectangle. So you're free to set its color. So too are you free to set this color of the other rectangle, right? So you've got dynamic color, and what do you really have here? You've got an image of the mask shape here in the mask layer, and the content is just a simple Altia rectangle. But you combine the two and you get a bloom. Or in the case of this mask object, you've got a gradient and also a rectangle. Combined, you've got a linear fall off. Okay, and when they are combined and you're focused out, they blend into each other, or any other object for that matter. If I just insert the standard image object and put it in back of everything, you can see that I accidentally put it inside the mask object. Let me make sure to collapse all first, and I'll just bring these in front of it. There we go. So you can see that I have this image object behind these two mask objects, and everything is blending perfectly based upon its mask and its current position. So in a nutshell, that is the mask object. I hope this gave you some cool ideas about how to use it, what you can do with it, and really, how much it can truly unleash your creativity. Because keep in mind that anything in the content layer or the mask layer, either one of these can be independently animated. So the mask can move or the content can move, and you'll get all these crazy cool effects with it. It also saves a lot of time when doing things like fall-offs and glows and things like that. So once again, mask object new to Altia Design 11.3. We'll have full tutorial-based, knowledge-based videos coming up on the knowledge base soon. But again, I wanted to give you a front overview just to give you an idea of what the capabilities are.